Dear listeners, welcome to History with Herodotus, where we embark on a journey through the labyrinthine corridors of time, unraveling the mysteries of our collective past. Today, we find ourselves in the midst of one of the most tumultuous periods in modern Chinese history, the Cultural Revolution. This epoch, marked by unprecedented social upheaval and ideological fervor, continues to fascinate and unsettle us with its complexity. As we delve into this pivotal moment, let us first set our sights on the horizon of its origins, for it is in understanding the earliest stirrings of this revolution that we may grasp the depths of its impact. The Cultural Revolution, a decade-long upheaval that would leave an indelible mark on Chinese history, was not born in a vacuum. Its precursors can be found in the tumultuous 1950s and early 1960s, when China was still reeling from the aftermath of the Great Leap Forward, a catastrophic campaign launched by Mao Zedong in 1958 that resulted in widespread famine and economic devastation. The failure of this campaign led to a significant decline in Mao's influence within the Communist Party, as moderates like Liu Shaoqi and Deng Xiaoping gained prominence. However, Mao, determined to reassert his authority and steer China back onto the path of socialism, began to lay the groundwork for what would become the Cultural Revolution. In 1962, he launched a campaign to revitalize the revolutionary spirit among the Chinese people, emphasizing the need for class struggle and the elimination of traditional cultural practices. This campaign, though initially met with skepticism by many party leaders, marked the beginning of Mao's efforts to reclaim his position as the dominant force within the party. As we explore the earliest history of the Cultural Revolution, it becomes clear that this was not merely a product of Mao's personal ambition or the machinations of the Communist Party. Rather, it was a complex interplay of ideological fervor, societal discontent, and the tumultuous political landscape of China in the 1960s. In May 1963, Mao wrote a letter to Jiang Qing, his wife, outlining his vision for a cultural revolution that would purify Chinese society of its feudal and capitalist elements. The Red Guards, a movement of radical youth who would become the vanguard of the revolution, began to organize themselves in schools and universities across the country. In November 1965, an article by Yao Wenyuan, a critic and ally of Jiang Qing, attacked the play Hai Rui Dismissed from Office written by Wu Han, a historian and vice mayor of Beijing. This seemingly innocuous event would prove to be a catalyst for the Cultural Revolution, as it unleashed a torrent of criticism and denunciation against perceived enemies of the revolution. As the movement gained momentum, key figures like Lin Biao, a prominent military leader and close ally of Mao, began to play important roles in shaping the trajectory of the revolution. In May 1966, the Central Committee of the Communist Party issued a circular, known as the May 16 Notification, which called for the elimination of all remnants of feudalism and capitalism in Chinese society. Let us transport ourselves to the vibrant city of Beijing in the summer of 1966, where the sounds of revolutionary fervor filled the air. The streets were awash with colorful posters and banners, as Red Guards marched through the city, denouncing their enemies and proclaiming the virtues of Mao's revolution. It was amidst this tumultuous backdrop that the earliest history of the Cultural Revolution unfolded, a period marked by both idealism and violence, as the Chinese people struggled to redefine their nation and their place within it. As we conclude our exploration of the earliest history of the Cultural Revolution, we stand at the threshold of its most pivotal and transformative phase. Having laid the groundwork for understanding the origins and precursors to this tumultuous decade, we now prepare to immerse ourselves in the heart of the revolution, where the intrigues of the political elite, the fervor of the Red Guards, and the resilience of the Chinese people would intertwine in a dance of revolution and transformation. Join me next as we venture into the very crucible of the Cultural Revolution, where the fate of a nation hung in the balance, and the course of history was forever altered. Dear listeners, welcome back to History with Herodotus, as we continue our journey through the tumultuous landscape of China's Cultural Revolution. As we transport ourselves to the summer of 1966, the city of Beijing is abuzz with revolutionary fervor. The streets are filled with colorful posters and banners, as Red Guards march through the city, denouncing their enemies and proclaiming the virtues of Mao's revolution. The air is electric with anticipation, as the Chinese people struggle to redefine their nation and their place within it. In August 1966, the Red Guards, now a powerful force, launch a campaign to destroy the four olds: old ideas, old culture, old customs, and old habits. This campaign, which would come to be known as the Red August, is marked by widespread violence and destruction. Red Guards, often armed with nothing more than makeshift weapons, and a fervent desire to prove their loyalty to Mao, attack anyone perceived as being counter-revolutionary. The streets run red with blood, as teachers, intellectuals, and government officials are beaten, humiliated, and in many cases, killed. The once vibrant city of Beijing is now a scene of utter chaos, as the rule of law gives way to the whims of the mob. Meanwhile, Mao Zedong, the mastermind behind the Cultural Revolution, watches with great interest from the sidelines. He sees the Red Guards as a means to an end, a way to purge China of its old feudal ways and create a new socialist society in its place. In September 1966, he writes a big character poster: "Bombard the headquarters," which is seen as a call to arms by the Red Guards. The poster attacks Liu Shaoqi and Deng Xiaoping, two prominent moderates within the Communist Party, accusing them of being counter-revolutionaries. As the Cultural Revolution gains momentum, the country descends into chaos. Factories are shut down, schools are closed, and the economy begins to collapse. The Red Guards, now a law unto themselves, continue their rampage, destroying cultural artifacts, temples, and historical sites. The famous Forbidden City, once the imperial palace of the Ming and Qing dynasties, is ransacked, its treasures looted or destroyed. In the midst of this chaos, a new leadership emerges. The Gang of Four, consisting of Jiang Qing, Chan Kungqiao, Yao Wenyuan, and Wang Hongwen, rises to prominence, becoming the de facto rulers of China. They are radical, ruthless, and determined to push the Cultural Revolution to its limits. In 1967, they launch a campaign to purify the Communist Party, which results in the purge of thousands of party officials. As we explore this pivotal phase of the Cultural Revolution, it becomes clear that the stakes are high and the consequences of failure are dire. The Chinese people, caught in the midst of this maelstrom, struggle to survive as their country teeters on the brink of collapse. And yet, amidst the chaos and destruction, there are glimmers of hope. For in the face of unimaginable adversity, the Chinese people show remarkable resilience, resourcefulness, and determination. As we conclude our exploration of the heart of the Cultural Revolution, we stand at a crossroads. The fate of China hangs in the balance as the country careens towards an uncertain future. Will the revolution succeed in its goals, or will it succumb to its own internal contradictions? Join me next as we venture into the final phase of the Cultural Revolution, where the consequences of this tumultuous decade will be revealed, and the course of Chinese history will be forever altered. Dear listeners, welcome back to History with Herodotus, as we conclude our journey through the tumultuous landscape of China's Cultural Revolution. As we transport ourselves to 1968, the Cultural Revolution is beginning to lose steam. The Red Guards, once a powerful force, have splintered into factions, and their violence has become increasingly directed against each other. Mao Zedong, realizing that the revolution is getting out of hand, begins to take steps to rein it in. In July 1968, he orders the People's Liberation Army to intervene and they begin to disarm and disband the Red Guards. However, the damage has already been done. The country lies in ruins, with estimates suggesting that over 1 million people have been killed, and millions more have been displaced or imprisoned. The economy is on the brink of collapse, and China's international relations are at an all-time low. The famous quote from Herodotus, "A revolution is not a dinner party," has proven to be a gross understatement. In 1969, Lin Biao, the Minister of Defense and one of Mao's closest allies, begins to consolidate power. He becomes the second most powerful man in China and starts to build a personality cult around himself. However, his ambitions eventually lead to his downfall. In 1971, he attempts to flee China after a failed coup against Mao, but dies in a plane crash. The Gang of Four, who had risen to prominence during the Cultural Revolution, continued to wield significant power. They push for further radicalization of the revolution, but their efforts are met with resistance from other factions within the Communist Party. In 1976, Jiang Qing, the leader of the Gang of Four, delivers a eulogy at Mao's funeral, which is seen as a final attempt to rally support for their cause. However, it is too late. The Cultural Revolution has run its course, and the Chinese people are exhausted. In October 1976, the Gang of Four is arrested, marking the end of the Cultural Revolution. The new leadership, led by Deng Xiaoping, begins to implement economic reforms and open up China to the world. As we reflect on this tumultuous decade, it becomes clear that the Cultural Revolution was a defining moment in Chinese history. It was a time of great upheaval, destruction, and transformation. The words of the famous Chinese historian Jonathan Spence echo in our minds. The Cultural Revolution was a period of unmitigated disaster for China, and its consequences are still being felt today. In conclusion, the Cultural Revolution was a complex and multifaceted phenomenon that continues to fascinate and horrify us in equal measure. As we bid farewell to this podcast series, we hope that our listeners have gained a deeper understanding of this pivotal moment in Chinese history. The Cultural Revolution may be over, but its legacy lives on, serving as a reminder of the dangers of unchecked power, ideological fervor, and the importance of protecting human rights and dignity. As the great Chinese proverb says, "When drinking water, remember the source." Let us remember the sources of this revolution, the millions who suffered, and the lessons that can be learned from this tumultuous decade. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the Cultural Revolution. Until next time, farewell, and may history continue to enlighten and inspire us. That's all for today's History with Herodotus. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, remember that to understand the present, we must first understand the past.